Picking it up where we left off, this is F-P-3, the last part of this video, and it's for the novices to help out people in general. Okay, the statement that O.D. Harris said, that he goes by what is right to him, and he goes by what he likes. And these are the final stages. You know, when you reach that pinnacle, when you've reached the level of understanding, you know, where you know your pigeons inside and out, you know, you're going to go by what you believe is right, and you're going to go by what you like. Okay? We're not trying to be smart Alex about this. We've enjoyed making these videos right here, and we're going to pick it up talking about Bill Barrett and see if we can end this video this morning. Okay, we have John Vandenbroek. He's ready to go. Okay, John, let's pick it up with Bill Barrett's statement.
What, that he didn't know nothing about pigeons until he met Bill Pinson?
And he was only 18 years old?
Yeah. Yeah, that he mentioned again, learned a lot by flying out the birds, and then, you know, putting them in the show pen, checking them out. And I got one statement to say about that is I think a lot of us are lacking that. You have to learn your pigeons. You have to learn what type is it that you like. And of course we all like the type that rolls real nice. So the thing is, once you get a bird in the air that really spins nice, I think what you need to do is put that bird in a show pen, handle that pigeon, understand how that pigeon feels. And you hear all this stuff about type, and more type. Now when you get an absolute spinner, wings straight up, none of this flip-flop stuff, and you start handling those type of pigeons, you will learn to understand type. Because roll type, to me, is really the only type. And if a bird is put together and he can roll really good, he's also put together good. It's like any kind of other athlete. You know, a big fat guy can't run a 100-yard dash. Same with pigeons. Those ones that flip-flop, keel settings are wrong, back muscles are wrong. So learn how to handle your pigeons. Fly them, and the very best ones, learn what they feel like. Put them in the show pen. Make sure that they don't jump up and down and bounce around. You've heard about these people, or you've seen it, where some hen or a cock kick the eggs out of the nest, or they jump off the eggs when you walk into their pen or you get around them. You don't want to breed out those type of birds. That's the biggest fault as anything else. You want your birds to be calm. When you set them in that show pen, calm. And I think you'll find that most really decent pigeons are also decent stock birds. All right, we're talking about another thing about flying. We're talking about flying your pigeons. Remember, if you don't fly them and you breed them, pick them off the ground, select them on the ground without flying them, you're making some terrible mistakes. I think once you learn, let's go back once, and once you learn your family, it's okay maybe once in a while you got an old cock that you got from someone you want to get a youngster off of, put it away, fly those youngsters off of that. Fly your pigeons. You don't know if they're going to be good spinners. They might be looking right, they might be built right, but do they kit? Do they roll together? All of these things you can't figure out until you fly your pigeons. There are so many things that need to be done. You find out the depth of your pigeons. You know, if you might make two really deep pigeons together that without flying them, you might get yourself a bunch of roll downs. A lot of things can go wrong. A lot of things can go wrong by stocking them without flying them, then flying them and then stocking them. And like I said, final selection should again be on that show pen. Make sure those birds are calm. Make sure they handle nice. And you know, today we're getting this competition rollers where, you know, you want all the birds to break in unity. I think we're going sometimes in a little bit of wrong direction with that. I think we got to fly deeper pigeons, and you know, stop flying those little three-foot wonders that want to get scored. Again, fly them, and you learn about the pigeon. Remember, the best thing ever is that the birds need to kit. And if you stock the wrong bird, you might put a whole bunch of non-kitters into your program, and you don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we just wanted to make a statement that, you know, we've talked a lot about O.D. Harris, and we mentioned something about Bill Barrett. These are some of the guys that were some of the godfathers from England in the roller fancy. both of them sent birds over here. A lot of people flying the Earthbird. Heine Biker, who's won 2 or 3 World Cups, has Barrett pigeons. There's a lot of good with these guys. They worked hard on their birds. If you'd like to see the video of Odie Harris, it's available on the NBRC website. Always remember too, I said, reading that Bill Pinson book is not going to hurt anybody. It's going to help everybody. I want to talk a little bit about the style of separation of pigeons or scoring pigeons when they're flying. I've always preached the separation thing, and I think a lot of times I can't get people to quite understand that. Always remember how far 10 feet is, and you got to picture it in your mind. And separation. If a bird rolls, if you have a kid flying and a bird rolls, say one bird rolls away from the kid, and there's a separation between him and the pigeons that he rolled away from. And if a bird rolls 10 feet, there's some separation. I think a lot of our scoring is done these days with boom, pigeons broke. How many went? Everybody's guessing. And I think most judges are guessing on the high side. They don't want to offend anybody that they're flying. They don't want someone to say, wow, you only gave me a 6, man. I know that was a 15. And I think that a lot of that is going that direction. Everybody wants these super, super high scores instead of flying some really nice pigeons that separate. 5, 6 years ago, if you scored 500 points flying a kid, man, it was fantastic. These days, scores are being kicked out of their 1,000 points, 1,500 points. It's getting to be where we're breeding a new type of pigeon. It's all good and fine if that's where you want to go, but remember, the true Birmingham roller is a bird that's supposed to spin. We talked a little bit about, some people are bringing up, they don't want axle pigeons, X pattern pigeons, axle where the wings go like this, or X pattern where it looks like this. They don't want those scored. It's getting a little crazy too. I've seen some axle pigeons roll pretty fast. I've seen some X pattern pigeons roll fairly fast. We all want to try to work on trying to get a little better pigeon, wings up.
Good wing placement.
Yeah, and the thing is, we want to get a little more speed in our pigeon, a little more velocity. And what's happening when we see in all of these kits that don't have a whole lot of velocity, the newbies are saying, wow, that's it, man, that's the velocity we're looking for. And I know that if you start reading a little bit about this, about the older generations, how they fly their pigeons, even for the individual flyers, how they want to have their pigeons roll. I even believe in our hobby, the 11 bird fly has become, like, I don't have 20 birds to fly, so I'll fly 11. And that's being scored. I know a guy in Texas just won with like 400 points again. And I'm just saying, I don't think you can get 400 points out of a kit of 11 birds. So these are just some of the things that I think that the whole hobby needs to look at, needs to work on. We need to get some good guys out there judging. We need the people that are standing in the backyard going oohing and ahhing and all of this stuff, and got comments about the judging and comments about the pigeon. Those people need to be quiet. Let the judge do his thing, and whatever the judge comes up with, don't sit there and harass the guy. That's why we're getting so many of guys that were out there judging all the time that don't even want to judge anymore. It's getting to be kind of scary sometimes when you want to try to judge good quality pigeons, and you go to someone and he flies a bunch of little short 5-footers and nobody calls it, and the guy's all upset and going ranting and raving about how terrible of a judge he had in his yard. This has all got to stop, guys. And that's just my little point on judging.
Okay, John, let's talk about little coloring that you've been putting on the form. Let's talk a little bit about that. Little shout out opportunity.
Well, I think Simple Genetics, we've done a couple of tapes on that, and I think it's just interesting that a person should know the Simple Genetics. I'm not real informed on some of the fancy colors and how to make those and that kind of stuff, but Simple Genetics is not that difficult. And I think if you look at our videos that Johnny and I have done on the Simple Genetics 1 and 2, it'll give you a good idea. If you breed in an open loft, a lot of times you can spot a nest jump. And I think it's just that if you're in this roller fancy, you should learn to understand Simple Genetics. And we've done a couple of videos that are out there that you can get your hands on. So take it from there. And you know, if you like the color projects, that's all good and fine too. But
I think we're going to go ahead and put Simple Genetics on for the beginners. So be looking for it. We're going to put it on. I think you want that on, right,
yeah,
John?
let's put that on there for
All
a
right.
while on Roller World, and
Okay.
then you can all kind of see it, and we'll just leave it pretty simple.
Okay, John, anything else you want to talk about the forum? Anything you want to mention, John, before we come to a close and
I just think
go
that-
outside and handle a few pigeons?
I think the main thing that we need to do is we need to start flying a little more better pigeon, get a little more depth in our pigeons again. And I know one gentleman told me, well, I don't want any deep birds in my kit because my kit could have broke 3 or 4 times by the time the deep birds get back to the kit. The scoring, I think, the multipliers are not being used correctly. You know, if you give a kit of flip-floppers a 1.6, 1.7, then if you go to the next guy's house and he flies some really nice pigeons, there's not much you can do to help him. And the frequent birds will come to the top again. So it's all good and fine with the frequency, but let's see if we can get a little separation in the pigeons. Try to watch your birds when they roll, that there's separation. I mean that there's space between the birds that rolled and the birds that are left flying. Not just boom, ooh, what happened? Did 10 go? Did 5 go? And that's what we're scoring out there, and that's got to come to a stop.
Okay, Big John.
It's all World Cup time, and I think some of the guys have already flown. I want to wish everybody a lot of luck in the World Cup. We have a finals judge now, Joe Emberton, who's going to judge the finals, an American judge for a change. So maybe, let's hope that America has a little better showing in the World Cup than it has in the last couple of years. Go get them, guys. Good luck. Kick butt. Here's a little bird I just wanted to show a pigeon, have a little fun. This little hen here, she's in her 2nd year of flying, and she became, I was watching her pretty closely. She was a very, very nice spinner. And then about 2 weeks ago on a Saturday, I watched her. And, if you guys ever seen one that blurred out and stood still, makes the hair on your arm stand up, that was this little hen right here. And so I decided that I was going to put her in the A team, and then I decided that I'm just going to keep her. I'm not going to take the chance on losing her to one of the BOPs. And it's probably one of the finest little spinners I've ever raised.
Pretty good, John. John, can you talk a little bit about her structure type?
Yeah,
You know,
we
give
can.
the guys a. You can just talk about it, John.
We can now. She's a small, typey little bird, and she's very muscular. She's got that, you know, we talked about the roundness to herself. She's got a flat back. She's just built like a spinner, and she didn't have much choice because I'm saying she was a hell of a spinner. So that's how you learn the type of a pigeon that you like. I don't know what else to say.
By
but
studying them in the ground, right?
Yeah, the only thing, and I think Pinson wrote it in his book, the head quality of that bird could be a little better. But like I say, she's been in the kit all her whole life, so maybe she's going to grow into herself a little bit. But outside of that, I think that's just a magnificent little pigeon. She's a small, typey little pigeon, doesn't weigh much, very buoyant. And I think once you handle birds of this type, then you'll get type down. I don't think you need to study where the wing position is, you know, 1/8 inch too high, or the beak is a tiny bit too small. And you know, just the simplicity of learning type on pigeons is handle your best spinners, and that'll give you a good idea what type is. I just brought out the mother. It's kind of a little interesting story, and we talked about not flying pigeons. Well, I had a bad overfly in 2009, and the full sister to this little dark check hen that's the mother happened to come back the next day. Very good friend of mine up in Northern California, Joe Keyser, just said, man, I'd love to borrow that bird. So I loaned it to him, and then he says, well, I'd like to borrow it for another year. And I said, well, Joe, you can just have it. So the father to the second hen we have here, he's an old bird. So what I did, I put it back together, and in the whole year I raised 8 eggs. They laid eight eggs, and only 2 of them hatched. And so this little hen, I didn't fly out. But since the mother and the sisters, the older ones that I had, were all flown out. I took a chance not to lose this hen, and I'm glad I did, because that's the mother that made this really good little spinner. And the mating that I had was, out of the hen that I gave away, I got a son back from my friend Joe Keyser, and I put it on this hen. So I had a aunt, what would you say, that aunt nephew together. And I got another 2 birds out of the same mating in the A team. So turned out to be a good mating. And so, like I say, there's kind of the exception, but again, I've had this family for
Absolutely.
ever.
Once you know your pigeons, it can be done.
Yeah.
That's why we were putting it in there, guys.
And so I'm all excited about this little hen. I hope she can produce some more. This year, I have her mated to a half brother, so we'll see where that goes.
Wow, that's interesting. John, as we come to a close, I think you did a tremendous job. Do you agree,
Oh yeah,
Phil?
it was excellent.
Okay, and I'm just going to close it up right here that, there's no substitute, guys. You got to fly the birds out and select from the air and pay attention in the ground. And I think we covered everything that we needed to. And John brought out this hen right here, the mother to the spinner that he just barely stalked out. And there's exceptions to the rules, remember, but you can't do, you can do it all, you can do anything you want, you pay the feed bill, right, Phil?
That's correct.
But the rule of thumb is you gotta pay attention to the air and ground, and if you get a nice bird that you want to stock out, that's on you. We're not saying that you can't do it, right, Big John?
Right, because right now we've got the BOPs, and like I said, this little bird I put away, she's in her 2nd year of flying, and I just lost the very best bird in my A team. And I was going to put this little bird in the A team, and then when I lost my very best bird in the A team, I said I don't want to lose this one. So that's the reason that I put the little roller away.
Hey, John, I want to mention something here. Okay, John, I know that you've been cultivating this family for some years now, and you have done a lot of inbreeding and line breeding and so on and so on. I think you taught me in the area of inbreeding your birds. John, so what do you think, Big John?
That's a good
can you
subject.
do it all day long, John, or only certain lines, you know what I mean, or certain birds, and then rule of thumb, stay within the line breeding? Expound a little bit, John, please.
I like line breeding, where you're breeding half brother sister, or an uncle and a niece, or that kind of matings. Those are the matings I like. I think if you start breeding too close, I think it's okay to do it for one generation. Say you want to breed a bird for stock, out of some of your very best birds. So you 3/4 a cock or you 3/4 a hen. But at that point in time, unless you're an expert at type and understanding pigeons, and again, those inbred ones, you got to fly those, because I think you can go too far, and I think that's why Johnny and I have talked about a subject going around the wagon. Find some friends that have the same family as you do, and use them as your outcrosses within the family, and try to not breed too close within the family. It's hard to do, because pretty soon everything's related, and that's why I use my friend Joe Keyser up north. I like to go. He's got a lot of my birds crossing into his birds. He flies out a good youngster. I like to pinch it, bring it over here, and that's what the father of this was. And I think you keep your gene pool open. I think if your gene pool gets too tight, you're going to lose something. You're going to lose the type of your birds. They're going to become roll downs. They're not going to want to fly. I don't
and
think
the hyper vigorness of the bird,
you want to try to keep some vigor going, like we talk about hybrid vigor, where guys take 2 lines of birds. The homer guys do that to keep for certain flies, like
gamecocks, racing.
Yeah, anything. Hybrid vigor works, but what happens when you don't build your own family and you keep breeding for hybrid vigor? I also believe at that point in time you're going to go the wrong direction. You're going to get some rollers to start with, and then you got to mate those. How are you going to mate them? You mate them back to the family A or back to family B, and very many people get very confused. And that's why I think it's good to build a family, and then, like I say, circle the wagons, have some friends that have the same family as you, and trade birds, and that'll keep your gene pool going.
Phil, I want you to mention a little bit, please, if you can, about inbreeding and line breeding, your expertise on this a little bit. Can you expound a little bit on that right now as we come to an end?
The same thing there. I personally don't care to go more than 3/4, and that's just my personal feeling. You just keep inbreeding, and but while you're trying to get the best you can, you could also get the worst you can't. So you can only take it so far. And my personal thing on that is I prefer never to go past 3/4. You know.
All right. Got that. Okay, I'm sorry. You want to add some more to that?
Well, I was going to say, you know, the whole
Sorry.
benefit of the video is to maybe you can learn something out of it if it's beneficial to you. But you're personally going to have to go through your own experiences to really understand them. You know, everyone can teach you and tell you, and you can absorb some of that. But until you've experienced it for yourself, you're not going to really understand it. And you have to really enjoy this little bird to want to stay with it. And it will never be boring. It will always be enjoyable. And the results will be in the air.
That's right.
Like one thing I like to say too is if you do 3/4, and I think at that point in time, when you 3/4 one of your favorite hens or one of your favorite cocks, then you don't breed that youngster back in real tight again. Take that youngster, and like we talk about, get your best friend that's had the same family as you have, and get a pigeon from him to breed to that 3/4 pigeon. And that way you won't jam it all up, and you won't get to a point where pretty soon you get like, it's like a tunnel where you like take your hands wide and you, as you look down the tunnel, and the tunnel is real long, pretty soon at the end of that tunnel it looks like it's almost, the opening's almost closed. And I believe that's what happens when too much inbreeding. You got to really understand type on pigeons and use the proper pigeon. One clue a guy gave me, and I'll throw it just out there. Kenny Billings, good friend of mine, he was at one time trying to clone his birds and kind of backed away from that, but he always told me, when you 3/4 a pigeon, make sure that pigeon, the youngster's not squatty, make sure that the youngster is strong and vigorous, and let him be at least the same size as the parents or bigger. And you know, I've learned that it kind of makes sense. You know, it might not work in all families, but when you start inbreeding too much, you're going to get squatty little pigeons, you're going to get bad feather quality on your pigeons. Keep your gene pool. It's fun to cross in, then cross out. Cross in, cross out.
Right,
We've talked the same thing about
Yeah.
light-colored birds. If you keep mating light-colored birds together, they're all going to get light. You're going to lose some feather quality. If you like light-colored birds, breed them to one of these, and then you get another light one, you breed it back to another dark one, and then keep going back and forth, in and out, as we call it.
In and out.
And I think you'll enjoy that, and you'll get better pigeons. And I don't think anybody wants to have a whole nest full of, or a loft full of white grizzles. So, you know, remember, that's what the blue pigeons are really good for.
Yeah. Well, John, right now we're talking about inbreeding and line breeding, but I take the opportunity, Roller World and also YouTube and around the world, we have a new video that's going to be coming out probably within a week. Be patient. It's on inbreeding and line breeding. John Vandenbroek and I did it last year. We call it Triple X, and we did a lot of study on it. And we have a lot of things to say in this area, so watch for that video. It's only going to play for 6 months, and John and I have agreed we're going to put a simple genetic one out there. So be watching for it, and then be watching for Triple X. Okay, God bless, and hopefully we didn't offend anybody. That's not the purpose of these videos. We hope you enjoy. Thank you.
All right.